When we look at all the possible and realistic options for the Seattle Seahawks with the 18th overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, there is no player that has been more favored. No player that's been more clamored for by the 12th man over the past couple of months than Tyler Warren. The very talented tight end out of Penn State has become the apple of many a 12's eyes, and rightfully so. He is the full meal deal for the tight end position. He can block, he can catch, he can give you run after the catch, and he also fits to what is a little bit of a quiet, silent need here for the team, being that though you are in relatively good shape at the tight end position with A.J. Barner and Noah Fant on this team as it stands right now, Barner's kind of a meat and potatoes, steady guy there for the position. And Fant's a guy who's only on one more year of his deal, who is a guy who's never really felt like he has been able to ever quite tap into that first round promise that once made him a top 20 pick here in the NFL draft. So here's a guy that you might be able to find an upgrade while also a little bit of an answer there for the future of the position. And he is a guy who would be rightfully selected right in that spot. There's a little bit of uncertainty about where he could exactly go in this draft, as you might even see him taken up in the top 10. Based on where some of the opinion is on you here on him. There's a little bit of a difference. And for me, I struggle a little bit to see him going up quite that high because I don't think that, for instance, some of the comparisons to Gronkowski quite fit. He's not quite as big or long as Gronkowski was. He's not as much of the dominating blocker that Gronkowski was coming at. He really is more of a pure H-back type in that way, less of an inline guy, which I think more of what Gronk was in how he was kind of built and how he was utilized. But they are very similarly built overall. It's just a couple of very real minor differences between the two of them. One thing that does stand out that really draws as far as the comparison between the two is that they're great contact contested catchers. You can be pretty much shaking them like this and they will still make the grab. They don't mind physicality. They don't mind being bumped around over the course of the route. They can fight through that. They're very rugged kind of players in that way. Another spot that's very similar to Rob Gronkowski here with Tyler Warren is that both of them have kind of those stiff hips, but in some weird, supernatural, odd kind of fashion, they're able to go full speed and then they're able to still somewhat sink their hips, but then change direction and then not lose full speed when they're running the route, especially when they're getting to the stem of the route, able to still maintain that speed. And what stands out about a lot of tight ends that come out through these drafts, especially the guys that are up around his size in that 6'5", 6'6" kind of place, is that they get into a bit of that Frankenstein mode, where when they start to try to change direction, that's where you really start to feel a loss of their agility and explosiveness and athleticism. But with him, he's able to maintain it even with a little bit of those stiff hips, and he is, again, really good as a contested contact catcher where he doesn't even have to really create that separation to make the catch, but then he does create some natural separation there in his ability to still maintain that speed throughout the whole course of his route. He's a solid route runner in general for the tight end position. I would see him again as a little bit more of that pure H-back type where you want to kind of keep him on the move, keep him a little bit off ball. But if you're going to take him at 18, that's going to be perfectly fine as well because you really do know what you're getting in this guy. And he would be a fit to this offense in so many different ways. He comes in and gives you maybe some of that long-term answer there at the H-back position for Noah Fant. You are going to run a lot more 12 personnel here with Clint Kubiak, which is more of a need for those two tight end looks, more of a need to have a guy like this that can be a bit of a difference maker there on that side of things. And then there's also the 21 personnel aspect of Clint Kubiak's offense, where he's going to require a fullback on the field from time to time. And when you look at this offense in other places throughout the league, when you've not had a Kyle Juszczyk to call upon, or maybe even a Taysom Hill like Kubiak had last year there with the New Orleans Saints, you're then going to typically go look for a tight end and drag him into the fullback position and allow him to then serve in that role because you want to run some of those I formation kind of looks in this offense. You don't want to just throw him out because you don't have the fullback. And what's nice about this is this guy can do that stuff. Specifically, he can be a threat to actually be a runner with the ball if you align him at the fullback position, as he had over a couple of 100 yards rushing last year for Penn State, averaging 8.5 yards per carry. That's ridiculous to go in addition to his 1,200 yards receiving. He's got one play where he jumps from the 4-yard line, just goes skyward to score a touchdown. It's pretty amazing. It's like watching Walter Payton in the 80s jumping over the top of the pile, and absolutely ridiculous for a guy that's 6'5.5" to be doing that at 260 pounds. So outstanding production from him last year, but you can use him in that way, move him all around the football field, let him just be a weapon, let him go work, and he's got his own unique little skill set that he brings here in that he has got that traditional old school tight end body, that old 1980s, 1990s, early 2000s 6'5", 6'6", up around that 260, 265-pound range of things. But he brings sort of the new school H-back kind of moves, catching ability, explosiveness, guys that would typically be more in sort of that 240-pound range. He brings a lot of that ability into play as well. So a little bit of a mixture here. But I've got no problem if the Seattle Seahawks want to make this pick at 18, even though I do see him going back a little bit further in my evaluation of where he probably should go, because he's going to come in here and provide some immediate impact. You've lost your top 2 wide receivers this offseason, so we're going to need to rely upon more of the collection as we go into the future. And I think this guy would be an absolute pure fit to Clint Kubiak's offense.